Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Right, I just finished watching a Sky Sports chat with David Haye, and I'll put the link to that in the description box for you guys to go have a watch for yourself if you haven't seen it, of course. And of course, they're talking about Jarrell Miller, Anthony Joshua, who could potentially be replacing Big Baby Jarrell Miller. Of course, they're mentioning names like a Kaunaki, a Luis Ortiz, etc. David Haye is saying Dereck Chisora. Now, I like Dereck Chisora, of course. I always support him, except, of course, when he's fighting like a Dillian Whyte, for example. But I do like him, and I'd love him to fight like a Wilder or something like that. I'd love that, but not Joshua. That's my personal opinion, and it's based on a couple of my own personal thoughts. Of course, you know, you all have your own, and listen, put me in my place if you feel needed. But I feel that Dereck Chisora lost his last fight against Dillian Whyte, regardless of the fact that maybe he was winning the fight, okay? Regardless, he got knocked out, okay? So he lost that fight. Now, this weekend he's fighting Senad Gashi, which is no easy fight, by the way, so people shouldn't be overlooking Gashi. And Gashi could pull this fight off. But even with that said, even if he defeats Gashi, how can you lose, then win one fight, and then get a world title fight? That don't sit well with me at all. And of course, two Brits in America. Not really something that I think Americans would buy into. For me, if you're going to have two Brits fighting, you have them fight here in the UK. It's like if you have two Americans, why would you bring two Americans to the UK to have a fight? You'll have it in America, surely. That's kind of like my thinking on it. But it just seems odd that, well, I say odd, this is David Haye we're talking about here. Okay, arguably the most hyped up fighter in British history. Listen, I was a massive fan of David Haye for a long, long time. And then I started to feel like he's just lying to us, okay? I mean, he even gave us a pay-per-view with Audie Harrison, and he fought Dereck Chisora on that himself and whatever else. But he's a salesman. But his guy, this would make a mockery of boxing. How can anybody, right, forget the fact that it's Dereck Chisora, how could anybody lose a fight, then win a fight against somebody who's not even ranked in the top 15, and then go get a world title fight? It just don't make any kind of sense to me, it really don't. And besides the fact, Joshua and Chisora have always said that they'd never fight each other, because Joshua has huge respect for Chisora. You guys seen that when Chisora fought Dillian Whyte, he had Anthony Joshua at commentary. He was gutted, absolutely gutted, that Dillian Whyte stopped Chisora. These guys are very good friends. It was Chisora who was at the Finchley gym when Anthony Joshua first turned pro or first put on boxing gloves, and he looked up to Chisora. So for me, I couldn't see Joshua going in there willing with a mindset to take his head off. So again, it's a complete pointless fight. It really is. Of course, David Haye is doing this because David Haye manages Dereck Chisora now. You know, he's getting some free money is what David Haye's doing. So, of course, he wants him in there with Joshua. Why? Because that equals money, even though Joshua would smooth him out. But in my opinion, I think that Dereck Chisora, if he was to get past Gashi, as I said, there's no given in this world. Gashi is a very, very capable opponent. So do not be shocked if Gashi wins. Which, again, let me carry on with that one. If I'm saying don't be shocked if Gashi wins, then how can we even consider Dereck Chisora in with Joshua? We just can't. But if he does get past Gashi, he needs to be looking at the Parker fight. That's, in my opinion, that's a fight that should have already happened or be happening now. So he needs to be looking at Parker. He needs to be looking at Povetkin. He needs to be looking at Luis Ortiz. Again, let's switch it. There's no point in Dillian Whyte going to America. Listen, it's an interesting fight, that is for sure. But again, two Brits in America on Joshua's American debut. I know it doesn't have to be against an American, but in my opinion, it kind of should be. North America, Central America, Southern America, wherever, Joshua needs to be fighting somebody who's based over there. Somebody where the fans go, oh, that's an interesting fight. This guy could potentially beat Joshua. Even if it is Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz doesn't deserve the title shot. Okay, he lost to Wilder. Okay, there was some controversial things going on in that fight, especially round number 7. We're not going to get into that one. But since then, what's he done? Who's he beaten? A back on the heels Travis Kaufman, a, at best, European level Christian Hammer. In fact, he's not even European level anymore. And Razvan Kajanu, who's a glorified journeyman now. And what, suddenly he deserves a title shot? He doesn't. But the point is, people know the name, and it shuts up the Wilder fanatics, okay, who put Luis Ortiz on some kind of pedestal just because Wilder beat him. That's all they're doing. These people don't know dick about boxing, okay? But it's a reasonable name. But listen, Luis Ortiz is southpaw, okay? Joshua's been training for Miller, complete polar opposite to Luis Ortiz. In my eyes, ideal opponent, Adam Kaunaki. Best friends with Big Baby Jarrell Miller. They train together, they spar together, they fight almost the same. Miller is a bigger version of Kaunaki is what he is. But Kaunaki does carry a bit more power, in my humble opinion anyway. So, and Kaunaki is a Polish-American, but resides in New York. So he is somewhat a native of New York. So Kaunaki should be the ideal opponent for Anthony Joshua. In my mind, would the PBC, Al Heyman, allow him to do it? I don't see any reason really why not, because I don't think he particularly figures into their plans. I mean, maybe to fight Wilder, maybe at some point, but that would be the only reason why I think that they would say no, is if they have plans on Wilder fighting him. That's the only reason I could think of it. But going back to Dereck Chisora, it's a no-no. There are other fighters out there, and Andy Ruiz Jr. will be a better fit for DAZN, for Madison Square Garden, for Anthony Joshua's debut, Andy Ruiz Jr. There are a couple more names that we can pull out, but no Brit should be travelling over there, least of all Dereck Chisora, who lost his damn last fight. You can't lose your last fight, defeat Senad Gashi, and then go to Madison Square Garden as a headliner against Anthony Joshua. If it does, it just makes a mockery, as I've said. Anyway, I'll put the video in the description box where you can see David Haye, and he's quite serious when he says about this. So anyway, drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.